disconnect the negative terminal in the battery. Just use an 8mm wrench. And set it aside. Remove the oil fill cap. Then grab this engine cover, pull it straight up. Right there, there's some tabs that hold it on. Right there, there, and there. Put the fill cap back on so you don't drop anything into the oil. Take a straight blade screwdriver, loosen up this worm clamp right here. I'm also going to loosen up the worm clamp over here. And there's a hose right here. Just slide this off and slide this piece out. Take that out of your way. The hose attaches right there. Disconnect this connector to the throttle body. There's a little lock tab. Slide that out, push down on the button, just like that. Remove this wiring harness retainer. Just slide this out. Just move that aside. If the wire harness is connected right here, just slide that out. Remove this hose right here. Underneath there is a lock on it. You have to push on the lock. When you push on the lock, then you can slide the hose off, just like that. Remove this hose right here. Just shake it a little bit, just wiggle it, and slide it out. Now we're going to take this bracket off. There's a bracket over here I'm going to take off, and that back bracket, I'll use a 10mm socket. Now we're going to take this bolt off in the back just with a ratchet wrench because it's close to the cowl. And just slide that out of the way. I'm going to take this bracket off right here, use a 18mm socket, take this bolt off down here. Bolt out and remove this bolt right here. I'm just going to use a 10mm wrench. That bracket can just move out of the way. And I'll just use a screwdriver, straight blade screwdriver, and just pry this hose out. Be careful, there's an O-ring in there. It's a good idea to replace that O-ring. Slide that out. And the hose right here that goes to the brake booster. Take that off. Set that aside. There's a bracket right here. Just use a 10mm socket. Take that bracket out. Take this cover off right here. It's just an insulation cover. You can actually push it back. We'll just pull it out later. Push down on the connector. Push down on that lock right there and slide that off. Put that aside. And this connector right here, it goes to the map sensor. Push down on the little lock right here. And slide the connector off. Now I need to remove these 6 intake bolts. Now this back one, it's kind of hard to get to. If you have a shorter socket and ratchet, you can get on there with a 13mm. Loosen that one up, and then you can do it by hand. If you have trouble getting to that back one, you can take this cowl off this side, and then there's a little piece right here. You can do that. But if you can get to it without doing that, it's a lot easier. All right, so I got that bolt loose in the back. You can just grab the intake and just slide it up. And once you move it out a little bit, then you can grab that bolt and slide it out. Grab the intake, pull it straight forward. Just gonna take some rags, stick it in the intake ports. Just make sure you don't shove them down too far. You don't want them to fall in there. And you don't want to leave them in there when you go to put this back together. But this is going to prevent, if you drop any bolts, from falling into the intake. And right there. Disconnect the connector right here. I'm just going to push on these little tabs on the side. There's a little lock ratchet right here. Just use a pick or screwdriver. As you slide this out, the connector will slide out, just like that. Take a 10mm socket, remove the bolt. And these are caged bolts, so they stay with the coil. So you may have to pull up on the coil as you loosen the bolt. And just wiggle the coil, slide it right out. Just take a blowgun and blow down the spark plug tube. If there's any dirt or dust in there, you want that out before you take the spark plug out. Take a spark plug socket, remove the spark plug. Take the new spark plug, put it in the spark plug socket. This socket has a rubber grommet, so when you slide it in, it's not going to fall out. Some of them have magnets as well. And just carefully slide it down into position and get it started. Then we'll use a torque wrench and we'll tighten this to 11 foot-pounds. Take the new coil, take a little bit of appropriate dielectric grease, put it in the end of the coil, and slide it in position. Get the bolt started a little bit and press it down. And we'll torque this bolt to 89 inch-pounds. Line the connector up. As you're pushing the connector on, you're going to push down on this lock tab, lock it in place. Then you can do the same with the other ones. All right, now I want to take the old gaskets off. Try to keep these rags in there. Just remember to remove them. Take a little brake parts cleaner and a rag and just wipe the surface. Get some of the sand off of there. And do that with the rest of them. So I got those surfaces clean. I'm going to pull these rags out. Just take a little compressed air. And just spray down the intake ports. And I can take the new gaskets and we'll line these up. Just take a rag and just wipe the intake down. Same way, just make sure nothing falls into there. Now take the intake. You're going to want to take this smaller bolt, slide that in position right there. If you want to, you could put a piece of tape around the bolt or a wire tie to prevent it from falling, or you can just hold it, get in position, and slide this back. All right, get that lined up. You want to make sure that gasket didn't move. You could lift up on it a little bit and just double check. And get this bolt started. Make sure you didn't pinch anything. Then I can take these 4 longer intake bolts and then the last shorter one. The last shorter intake bolt is going to go right here in the front, and then the 4 shorter ones in the middle. The 4 longer ones in the middle. Then I'm going to torque these bolts to 17 foot-pounds. There's no exact torque sequence for this, but it's best to start from the center and work your way out. So I'll do the center 2 bolts and just go out from there. And this back one, I'm not going to be able to fit the torque wrench back here, so do the best you can with that. Now we'll just go to this side, this line that goes into the intake, just wipe it off. And I'm just going to take a little bit of engine oil and put it on the O-rings. That way it slides in better. Do not use any type of silicone spray or anything. So engine oil will be just fine. And then I'll just try to slide this in position. Just got to pull it forward. And I'll do the same with this side. All right, I'm going to start with the back connectors and work my way forward. This connector is going to plug in right here. Line that up. Plug it in. Plug in the map sensor right here. Now I'll install these bolts for the brackets. There's a bolt that goes right here. And one on the other side. And there's a bracket right here. Slide this purge valve over. Get that started. And one right here. Get that started there. And then tighten them all down. This one I'm just going to use a wrench. The other ones I can use a ratchet. I'm just going to connect this tube right here. Line that up. Lock it in place. And we'll install this brake booster tube. Just line that up. With all the stuff in the back done, we can grab this insulation, slide this back in position. And just slide this over these two tabs, just like that. And install this bolt in this bracket down here. And once you get that started, then install this stud that goes right here. And we'll tighten them both down. Slide this bracket back over the throttle body. And plug the throttle body back in. Lock it in place, push down on the lock. And take this intake piece right here, slide this in position. We'll put this tube on first. Slide that on. And slide it over the throttle body and on the snorkel. Take a straight blade screwdriver and tighten down the worm clamp. This one right here and this one as well. Now I'll just remove the oil cap so we can put this cover on. Get this lined up in position. And put the oil cap back on. And take the negative battery terminal, get this started, and snug it up. Make sure it's tight. Positive's tight, good to go.